What do we do when you have somebody who doesn't believe in the direction you want to take the practice in, and so they complain to the boss? And what happens when the boss doesn't back you up?
There's nothing worse than not supporting your front team.
If you guys aren't on the same page, how often are you guys meeting together?
I had no boundaries. I was 24/7, eat, breathe, the whole thing. And you know what? Here's the thing, people, that's not life. That's living for something. That's performance being your power.
I can think my very first employee that really gave me issues, I did develop migraines, like legit had to take medication. When she left, I was like, oh, everything's good. I've developed heartburn. I've had problems sleeping at night from different situations or different patients. That's not normal stuff.
Listen to your body.
Yeah.
Our bodies are so smart because burnout with office managers is so prevalent.
Mental fortitude comes from a really wise decision of not worrying about so much about your performance, but worrying about protecting your peace.
My goal is to share insights and business strategies so that dental professionals like you can grow your company. My plan is to grow this podcast to reach and support more people in our field. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. It helps the show grow. Plus, I don't want you to miss an episode. Thank you for being a part of the journey. And we are back with another edition of Nobody Told Me That. And I am joined by two friends. This is pretty exciting because usually I just have one face to focus on. Now I can focus on two. And they're both returning friends of the show. So first we have Ashley Bond, who is the Chief Dental Billing Officer of Wisdom. That's such a meaty title. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me back.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then we've got another beefy title here. We have Lorie Streeter, who is the VP of U.S. Expansion for MaxAssist, and she was just on as well. How's it going?
Great. Happy.
So what are we doing? Why are the three of us hanging out on this podcast? Well, we did sort of a webinar. MaxAssist and Wisdom came together and they invited me to come hang out. And we did a webinar basically like managerial wisdom, sharing the things that we wish we had known, basically saying, please don't do what we did as a manager, avoid our mistakes. And we had such good feedback and so many questions to follow up on. It just didn't feel right to take the questions and just type out. And I thought, you know what, even if I give them one side of it, so many other sides to it. And they really, really liked it. So I said, good, the follow-up I'm taking for Nobody Told Me That. If you want to hear the other side of the webinar, the actual original webinar with everything, the link to it will be in the show notes. It is well worth it. You don't even have to have it up on TV or on your computer. Just listen to it because we had a really good time and talked about things that I wish I had heard being discussed when I was 1 year in, 5 years in, 7 years in, and shoot, we even had a good time 30 years in for me. Yeah. So what did you guys think of that whole thing? Was it kind of fun to go over what the heck we did wrong and how to avoid it?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun.
We were laughing a lot. But these questions were very interesting because we went all over the spectrum when it comes to the questions. I mean, we were talking about compliance and we talked about staff management. And so one of the questions that came up really had to do with, well, most of them, how on earth are we talking to our staff? So we're making all these decisions. We're tasked with communicating to the team, this is where we want the office to go. This is the direction it needs to go in. But then all these little things come up, like, employee over here doesn't really like it that much. And she's going to put up a little bit of a fight over here. She wants to take it and go in a different direction. And then us as the manager, one thing that came up a lot was that we were kind of not being brought in when we should have been brought in. People were going straight to the doctor instead of coming to us. Meanwhile, we're over here with like this big old manager badge saying, hey, help us help you. But they all went running to the doctor. So I'm just going to kind of sum up the questions, which was, what do we do if we don't have the backing? Two things. So Lorie and Ashley, think about this. What about when you have somebody who doesn't believe in the direction you want to take the class or take the practice in, and so they complain to the boss? But then what happens when the boss doesn't back you up? So there's kind of two prongs there, and let's just tackle it and let's just see what direction it goes into. Who wants to get into it first?
I'll start.
Okay.
I mean, that sucks, frankly. It's a really tough position to be in. I made notes. I gave all these questions a lot. I thought, well, you guys did really good on the questions. I mean, there was a lot of really good ones.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting when you don't have the backing of the doctor. I actually worked with a practice in Minnesota that was like this, and it was so challenging for the front office to implement change with the team when they didn't have the doctor's backing, or the person would make a decision and then the doctor would reverse it. So I'm here to tell you, if you're a doctor and you're listening, there's nothing worse than not supporting your front team. If you don't agree with something that, let's say I'm the office manager, if you don't agree with something that I've laid down for the team, or a protocol or a vision, two things. One, we're not on the same page. And you can only lead with the kind of the levity that you're given, right? You can only lead to the end of the doctor's comfort zone. So I would strengthen that relationship with the doctor so that no matter what, if you make a decision, there should be a verbal cue, some kind of cue between you and the doctor that says, hey, if you don't like something I've implemented, let's talk about it. Don't backlash me to the team. Don't put me in a position where I have to be like, oh, yeah, I guess, well, I got my way because Dr. So-and-so said X. How many times has that happened to all of us? So I think that the rapport with the doctor is critical. So I'll just stop there.
I want Ashley to answer, but I've had so many thoughts, and I have I want to do the whole devil's advocate thing, but Ashley first.
No, I definitely agree. And, we had mentioned this on the webinar that we did, but, what if you disagree with the doctor? And I think for me, it was my father, so a little awkward, but doing that in private. So I think if you guys aren't on the same page, how often are you guys meeting together? If you're the office manager and the doctor, maybe you need to have weekly meetings to get on the same page, to talk about what goals do we want to hit. And I'm all for, because my father would get amnesia. We would agree on something, and the next day, I swear, he forgot. He's like, the conversation never happened. And he would go off that we're working on something else. So I think it's getting it in writing and almost having a goal board or a decision board on what are we working on.
Love
that the doctor can sign off on it, and then it can be clear to the team that here are the areas that we're improving, or here are the areas that we're growing on.
So when you're talking about whiteboarding, vision boarding, and keeping track. So first of all, I thought your poor mom, if your dad has amnesia that much, she must be like, what? We talked about this. But when I started working with companies that were not strictly dental offices, I realized they do a lot better job of keeping track of projects than the small dental office does. But now we have so many options. Like if you want to look at Asana or, Trello or whatever people are using. I mean, I have a specific one that's basically, here's my projects, due dates, benchmarks along the way. What stinks is it's me keeping myself accountable. But in an office, you have to have, I think, transparent list of what's in progress and who's due and who owns it. And if someone's overdue on it, it's not oh man, you stink, you're totally this bad review and all that. But it's how can I help you get back on track? Did you guys have something like that, maybe on paper or maybe a big whiteboard in the lounge? Have you seen that in other offices?
I've never seen that. I mean, I only had a one doctor practice, so it was tell a Lorie, tell a friend kind of thing. We just kind of went on down the line. But I had a lot of respect from my doctor. I didn't have that challenge, and I know that a lot of office managers do. In my role today, we use Monday.com. It's super simple, and it keeps track of things. I think from the principle of whiteboarding and keeping everybody as simple as you can keep it, the better. I mean, to me, everybody has their role within whatever goal and outcome you're trying to achieve. People should know their job. I know you're devil's advocating, Teresa, but I'm people should know what they're responsible for, right? And how that impacts the goal. And I think huddles in the morning are a really good way to kind of remind people without calling people out what their responsibility is there. And I think that kind of congruence between the office manager and the doctor is what will lead to that doctor not backhandedly overriding something that you're talking about. That good communication, Ashley, like what you were saying.
So let me really drive home the devil's advocacy part. So what I was actually thinking is you were saying, the doctor has to get to trust them and all of that. So one common thing I used to run into was, and I was one, but I'm talking mostly when I was consulting, the newly promoted manager, just because maybe they were there the longest, or the manager left and she's just, or he's just the next logical choice. So I'm going to be the doctor. So from what I heard from doctors was, here's somebody that's now the Java manager. Her and I both know she doesn't have the training for like a proper manager, but we're going to help each other along the way. There's an element of that doctor not yet having that confidence because he or she hasn't seen it in that manager. So that's where I wanted to do devil's advocate. So as a newly formed managerial team, doctor and manager, and I would say if you're the manager listening to that and like, oh yeah, I just got promoted too, don't forget the doctor hasn't had a really good run at this either. So he or she, it's new for them. But how are we supposed to keep each other going when there's sort of this, oh, is she going to mess this up because she's new and then my butt's on the line? I'm sure that you've talked to new managers, all of us in our roles. Like, how do we reinforce that working synergy between them?
For me, I think it's anything you can do to build trust. So you have to show your doctor that you understand the outcome, like what they're looking for, and that if you don't know the proactive steps to get there, what does that look like? Working with the doctor to say, what are the steps that we're going to take as a team to get there, and be aligned with those steps too. To me, if my doctor doesn't trust me, I'm going to go back to my Atomic Habits Dental Edition, little chunks at a time, right? I want little wins.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So here's something that wasn't on our agenda at all. And this wasn't a question that was asked, but I feel like we don't talk enough about some of the business books that have helped us. And, I have to admit, in my first 10 years of management, I really didn't read outside business books. I was so head down. But then when you start reading, I really liked Traction. I mean, still Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is like, I mean, my copy is so dog-eared and battered. I mean, I love it. It's helped. But are there any books that you all have read and still even use as resources?
Traction's a great one. I'm not going to lie. I'm a great book starter. Not the best book finisher, but I get the synopsis. For me, I am all about overreading just tools, probably more like messing around, like Google, YouTube. Were always especially when I first started, I would figure out how to do everything with just that kind of research. Okay. And so it wouldn't be as much long form books as much as, hey, I need to fix this one problem. Let me go down a rabbit hole on this one issue and what we can test out to fix it.
Ooh, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Lorie, what else?
Oh, well, everybody knows that I'm speaking on this in a couple weeks. Let them. I mean, that's a big one for me. And I did the Let Them Dental series because, it applies to every single thing in dentistry. Your team doesn't like you, let them. That is so difficult. I mean, Teresa, you and I have had some recent conversations about that. Everybody's going to be a fan of you. And I think let them allows you the space and ability to kind of let it go and see where it kind of fleshes out from there. We as humans put too much emphasis on what people think of us, and we tend to think less about what are the systems and priorities we have that make us a legitimate business person. So in this frame in a dental practice, I want to know that my doctor and team trust me to do my job and that we're all moving in the same direction. So for me, let them. Also, I had the super pleasure of seeing Jim Rohn live before he died. Jim Rohn's been amazing in this front for many years, and I think a lot of my business philosophy came from learning from him right off the hop. So
that's a blast from the past. Yeah, I used to watch his videos too when YouTube came around, because Ashley, there was a time when there was no YouTube for us to go to. I know, it's so crazy. Like we would have to go to the library and look up books. Like, what the heck is that? Like, we'd ask a librarian, "Hey, you got any good business books?"
Holder, yep, all the good things.
So crazy.
I will say back in the day, one of the best tools to help me learn dentistry, the Casey education videos.
Oh, yeah.
From Patterson.
Yeah.
Oh, I ate those up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
That's perfect. Those. I love that because, and if it helped you learn something, it's really a testament to the fact that, and we all had these kind of like early dentistry stuff. Like, don't look for these big, huge, like gorgeous sets that are like going to be like $5,000 or whatever. Go to YouTube and find somebody explaining dental anatomy really well. Like, my goodness, like there's so many out there. I mean, just make sure they're not a little crazy. That's all.
Yeah,
So,
that's for sure. And I was reminded this morning by a teammate, which was such a great reminder, because in my previous life, when I worked at ADOM, I used to train my team on Simon Sinek's why.
Oh yeah.
And, going back to just that simple why principle, it applies to a dental office too. So there's lots of great videos on Simon Sinek out there, and really kind of understanding the purpose of why you're in dentistry and what the outcome is, which is a healthy mouthed patient with a foul mouthed office manager. Sorry. That just sort of rolled right off my tongue.
I get it. And, one of the comments that I really liked was praise in public, vent in private. And I feel like that's something that a newer manager and doctor team, they might be younger. They might like hanging out. They might go and have, a drink together afterwards and talk about stuff. But that sort of familiarity, I think, is very important as a new manager. And we talked about that a lot on there. So if that sort of is where you are, where you're feeling like maybe I'm too close to the team, you probably are. And it's hard to manage a team when you are supposed to be like, homegirls with them and hanging out on the weekends and everybody does everything with each other. That's hard, I think.
Venting is one thing, but I think, and this was something, I know it wasn't a true question, but someone brought it up in the chat. And I think it's important that people do sometimes need a place to vent. And you can be that place for them, but you have to be really clear that the communication has to be there, that if we want some kind of real change, venting doesn't do anything. It just relieves you for the moment. If you want lasting change, you can tell somebody, I'm happy to listen, but if you want this to improve, we really need to bring it to the doctor together. It kind of sets a boundary for you. And then also lets somebody know that if they're going to vent to you, that you're only going to listen so far, and then you're going to want to have an outcome from it.
So how do you handle that though? Because there's a part of you, listen, we all like to hear stuff, right? I mean, there are times when we're like, I really don't want to hear that. But say you were working with someone and you did spill all the time. Like you guys were just like, you sat up front, you talked, hanging out. What do you say to somebody who you used to do all that with? Now it's too far. Are you starting to be mean girls or mean guys? Like, how do you stop that conversation?
I actually had to deal with this starting as office manager. I was the youngest person in the office, which has its own troubles when you're especially a first-time manager. But I wanted to be everybody's friend. And that was something that we brought into the office, just a team culture kind of agreement that we all signed. So this was, if you don't have an agreement like this, I have a copy. Happy to share the one that we used to use. But just kind of, we're not going to gossip about each other. We're going to go directly to the person. That kind of information, we're all going to agree to this. So we had a meeting about, this is where we want our office to be, this type of people we want to be. Here's the new agreement. That could be a way that if you are engaging in that venting, or at least just hearing all the venting, maybe participating, you can kind of start fresh with, hey, it's a new year. We really want to see us grow as individuals and as a team. So we really want to sign this team agreement. So moving forward, this is what it looks like to vent, or in an appropriate manner. Mm-hmm. That to me was an easy way to kind of change what was expected it was going to happen. That it's almost like, here's a new process that's coming in. And now I can just blame, we have a new process. So remember, we're not going to talk about that.
It's actually a really good crutch. So Bent Erickson and Associates, an HR company, and Alan Twigg has been on the podcast, and he does a really good job with everything.
He's great.
I like him a lot. But here's what I learned from his dad, who used to own and run it, is he would say having a good manual or having a protocol would avoid you having to think on your feet and having to come up with something that maybe wasn't consistent. And he said there's only 5 words you need to remember, what is in the manual. And I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty smart actually. And as a new manager, you need like things you can pull out real quick and not have to think on your feet, because you're going to get some stuff wrong. So the less amount you can do, the least amount of damage you can do, the better. So, I mean, it's very similar to exactly what you were saying. Yeah, I like that.
I think the other issue is, as a newer manager, I think we talked about this on the webinar, is that you got to stay curious and not judgmental too. It's very hard sometimes when someone's venting to you to ask yourself the questions. And I try to do this as much as I possibly can. Like, what are they really saying? What do I think they mean?
Mm-hmm.
Why do they want me to know this? What's an outcome? So I try to ask those qualifying questions like, is this keeping you up at night? Like, does this give you the ick? My
Yeah.
boss says that all the time. My boss is like, does this give you the ick? And I love that because, and I try to be honest with him when he asks me those kind of questions, because even as more of a senior leader in dentistry, there's some things that still give me the ick.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think we have to be honest about those, but staying curious versus judgmental, like, oh my gosh, here they come again. If you can set that aside and leave that for your kids and your husband or whatever that case may be, and just keep
Mm-hmm.
the curiosity at the forefront as an office manager, you're going to be a much better leader because you're not going to be judging immediately. Oh, here they come again. Really got to dive into, this is bothering this person enough to where they're, wanting to fill me in about it. It's just, I think there's venting that can be super constructive. And I think there's also venting that's just flat out nasty.
I got to say, this was my hardest thing because it always was the squeaky wheels getting the grease, right? You always had your super dependable ones that came in, did their job, and you could tell if something was wrong because they were just either quiet or off or whatever. And then the next day they were fine. But the one who always had something to say was either the superstar or the one that was just going to cause problems. And so I had a hard time because I definitely was like that. I was like, here it comes. Or like something would happen. I would go, I'm going to hear about that at the end of the day. And I had to really turn that around because I would go to that negative place, like, okay, here she comes. And I would really, like you said, like, what is she trying to tell me? I didn't start thinking of it that way for a very long time. I was not empathetic like that. Yeah. And it's harder, I think, for dentists because they don't want to deal with all of that. Like that's what we're here for. So managers, that is something that's empathy. You got to learn some empathy. And that was hard for me. That was really hard. But if it's the same one to your point, Lorie, that's coming and venting all of the time, that in and of itself is an issue. And not necessarily with everybody around them. That's an issue for them. Like maybe they need to learn some conflict resolution or they need to change their expectations, or maybe they're just going to do this until they drive everybody crazy and you have to do something about it.
I think that's when you truly got to shut it down. You have to basically be like strong enough to say, look, you've come to me with this 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked this through, and obviously it's still bothering you. And the only way to escalate the communication is for us to have a sit down with the doctor.
Right, right. But then what happens? One of the questions or one of the comments was, but they don't want to involve the doctor. They just want to vent to you. It's like, and you were just like, but wait, how am I supposed to do anything?
Well, and remember this, being on the fuzzy side of this, as an office manager, you don't want to carry that person's emotional load.
Mm,
So you have to set the boundary that says, you've come to me 3 times with this now, or whatever the case may be. We're going to have a sit down with the doctor. Or for a larger practice, if they have an HR department or that kind of thing. I mean, there's all kinds of conflict resolution companies out there. In fact, not to sidebar, but I just saw a new conflict resolution software that's
ooh,
AI based that's coming to market. And yeah, I won't give the information away, but I've been on a couple demos and boy, it's cool. It goes through where like you do the talk path and then you have an upset hygienist or you have an upset patient and it walks you through scenarios and the AI gets smarter and helps you through the conflict resolution. I think it's going to be pretty groundbreaking, but
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
for us who are just trying to manage it on our own, just protect your peace. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Protect your peace. Be curious, not judgmental. And then at some point, you're going to have to nip it in the bud. As my grandpa used to say, you got to nip. You got to be like, no more. We're not doing that. Because now my ear looks like I'm a wrestler and it's full of cauliflower because you've been, gnawing at me like all these times. And really what you're trying to do is just gripe. And
Yeah.
I think we have to define as managers, when is someone just that's their personality?
Mm-hmm.
Poor me or poor crabby me or the victim or the villain. Like you got to kind of identify those pieces in your team. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's not easy. It's like dealing with your kids. So you don't really
Mm.
want to be, calling them out on bad behavior. But at the same time, like I said, protect your peace.
You were cracking me up though. You said, and your HR department. So we are the HR department. Like how many? All three of us were the HR
Quit
department.
HR
Right.
department.
That's right.
So we had
That's
so many
really
chief
true.
executive, chief financial, chief HR, like all these titles we had, we just didn't know about it. Okay, so How about though, and this is where I had not do have a preconceived notion because my mind immediately went to a certain type of employee that I've dealt with. So here, let me bring this up. Any advice helping staff? This is a direct question here from MV. I don't want to give her full name because it's pretty identifiable, but MV asked, any advice helping staff with someone who is older, wise, and can be intimidating to approach? I think she's nice to say wise. I think she's being very nice there because the rest of it was like somebody who doesn't want to change. But I'm assuming that she's being, kind about it. But older people. So Ashley, I'm going to go to you because you had to deal with us dinosaurs, right? Like, and I'll put myself in there. No, because can you imagine like, what if I went back to work at my office and you come rocking in and you're like, okay, I think I know you. I've got to manage you now. I would be like,
oh, I would never tell you what to do. I was like, Teresa's got it. She's good.
That would be hilarious. So, but imagine somebody like that, because honestly, they've been there. They know the practice.
Yep.
That's probably their practice that they built up. And now here you are.
Yes. I think empathy is huge. So having empathy for the position that they're in, that they have been very loyal. Usually they've been there a while at the office. So valuing their expertise and voicing that you value their expertise, maybe bringing them alongside, going more for curious, like, can you help me problem solve this? Can we look through these numbers together? I think brings people, kind of takes their guard down, is one thing. That for me was the hardest part, and it took me a lot of years to realize. I just had imposter syndrome because I actually had no idea what I was doing. So I should have had some syndrome there. But I think just fake it till you make it. I know I say that a lot. It is why I am here today, of just and owning up to your mistakes, I think was big for me. That I am still going to make mistakes and I'm not going to make the right decision, but there is something, I'm going to try new things. And so I think it's just getting everyone on board that, hey, we're going to try some new things together. They're not all going to stick, and that's okay. We're not all going to be perfect, and that's okay, but let's try it together. I think the hardest part is getting people out of there what they're used to. So just opening it up that we're going to mess up, I'm going to mess up, and then owning when you mess up is really big for your team. Like, I just messed up that conversation with the patient, but then they're going to see you pick yourself back up, but I'm going to try it again. And then they're going to hopefully see what you're doing, and then they're not going to be afraid to step out and try something.
I like that. It's not a sign of weakness. Everybody messes up. If you try to pretend you're perfect, forget it. They're going to see right through you. So, Lorie, did you have to deal with somebody older, wiser?
Oh, absolutely.
Or just older?
Now that I present on the anatomy of the gatekeeper and that kind of thing. So I talk about all personas of office managers, and that particular persona I call the pirate. That's terrible, I know, but it just I don't want to do it that way. It reminds me of a half dead parrot. But anyway, I looked at that question and thought, how would I handle that? And I think offering respect to a person who's been doing it a long time, basically saying, hey, I know you are the go-to for this. You've been here the longest and you really understand this. Would you help me look at this? Or would you kind of give me your perspective on this? I think that opens the door more to collaboration, versus confrontation. I don't want that person that's been doing it a long time to see me as a threat. So I want to make sure I respect that they've been doing it a long time. And I think once that trust boundary is built to where they know that you're not going to overstep them, they might be open to a little bit more change that way too. Because let's not even get into the change management conversation. That makes me want to drink early. No, I don't drink early. Never mind. But it's a thought. But you know what I'm saying? You don't want to lose their respect, but at the same time, you want to honor the fact that they've been doing it a long time. And then also I would make notes approach so-and-so about X, and maybe this is the response and you're like, oh, I don't think we should do it that way. Those are the kind of things that you kind of build up. And once the trust is there, you can have more of that conversation, I think that's the way I would deal with it.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's funny, you have the anatomy of the gatekeeper. I have a class I used to give the personalities, how to deal with the personalities. And it wasn't the traditional ones. And mine was what we would call survivor, because she was there the longest. She never got voted off the island. She was just there the whole time. And she just watched everybody come and go, And so that person is just they're not trying to get you out. They just know eventually you're going to go because everybody else is gone and they've been there the longest. Yep. And that's interesting because what you just said is exactly what would help them, which is enlist them in helping you to succeed because they have seen everything go bad in this office. Like they could write a book on how to really screw up this office because they've seen it. So why not enlist that person into it? And they might have a good suggestion that no one ever gave them the ability to make the change. Like, why not get them to do it?
Maybe we should change that persona to like, I'm thinking of Tom Hanks, like Wilson. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's been on the island for
Castaway.
Castaway. Oh,
because
that's
look,
funny.
yes, at the end of the day, we still want them held to the standards of the rest of the practice, right? We can't just give them a pass because they're Wilson.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's going to stick with me now. I think
I like that.
It's not disrespectful. I think, the Wilson persona is going to be my new favorite.
I'm going to go find my old volleyball in the garage and send it to you for Christmas, right? With a bow. Yeah. So one question that came in from LJ, and she gave a list. I mean, I'll just kind of quickly go over it. I have an idea of where I want to take this, but I definitely want to talk to you guys about this. It says, our office manager is awesome. Her way of talking to employees, firm, respectful, and caring, but she's struggling with the accountability of having the admin team doing what they are supposed to do without having her telling them to do the work. So, basically when the schedule falls apart, she's having to tell them to call continuing care or use the ASAP list, or she's having to tell them to collect from patients. And says, we do not like micromanaging or babysitting, but we are having a hard time changing the behavior. So they have a team. It sounds like the team has to be told on a regular basis how to do their job. Mm-hmm. So 5-year management Teresa probably would have fired them all because that's what 5-year management Teresa did. 7-year worked with them a little bit, and then back to 10-year management Teresa would probably have fired them because she realized they're hard to get to fix. I feel like maybe there's two things going on here. Maybe they're not clear on their duties, or maybe they just don't think it's important to do their duties because they're not being held accountable for it. If this has been going on a while, like, they're not scared of getting fired because they're not getting fired. Do you guys see it a different way? When you read that, did you come up with something different?
We especially with downtime, who to call, struggled with this a lot. People would run away from the phones. Like anytime there's downtime, they hide.
That's why you need Max Assist.
I know. That's why, Lord, we need Max Assist. I can't hide.
Nothing right now.
Max Assist. But I think what saved us, and I am just a huge fan of checklists. We had a checklist for the week. Every single person's position had a morning, a afternoon shutdown checklist, a weekly, monthly, all in this one checklist. Mm-hmm. Every Monday I would pass them out. It had Monday through Thursday. I would pass them out in the morning huddle. They had to turn them in before they left. I know it sounds micromanaging, but I used my checklist. I gave myself a checklist because on Tuesday it reminded me what I'm supposed to do on Tuesday, call insurance aging or whatever my task was, or call the ASAP list. I love that as just like a base. Yeah. Like my base jobs, I have a checklist. The accountability is that my team turns them in every night. They couldn't leave unless they turned them in. My sister loved that when I would make her turn it in. And then I would pass them back out in the morning huddle. So like for me that, and then we had our downtime, like task lists, like in downtime per your position. Here are the different lists that you were going to call. Okay. So like assistants went to unscheduled treatment, hygienist went right to recare, and then the front office team is always trying to do insurance patient billing. Clinical team, it's always unscheduled treatment, recare.
Inventory, things like that. Yeah. Okay, so you have me working for you, and I'm just not. I'm terrible. So what do you say to me though when it's Friday and I'm like, okay, I'm out, and you're like, where's the checklist? Like, oh, what do you do?
Oh, yeah, all the time. So they would try to run out and be like, oh, where's the checklist? And then my sister would huff and puff. We also had a rule that you couldn't put a line through the check. Like you had to check each thing. You can just put a line through your.
It's all done.
Yep. Yeah. No, you had to check each thing. So then they would stand at my front desk and then check. But I will say there was a lot of times when we had to use that checklist to go refer back to. Okay. So it really did come in handy, especially like for like the diagnodent or even like cleanliness things. Like, did we calibrate the diagnodent? Stuff like that. Like we had to go back and check it. So especially even for assistants, I was very stern that like, you're not done with the day until your checklist is turned in. Same with route slips. I was really big on route slips. I had to turn them in a certain way. If they weren't filled out a certain way, I would return them in the morning huddle. which was, yes, a little bit of shaming purposefully, but also I had a very good relationship. So it wasn't like I'm this. It's kind of like, this is fun but serious.
Yeah.
Like, we aren't really shaming you.
No.
But it's like, Lauren, like, you're up to 4 route slips. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, like, no route slips were returned. It's like, good job.
Right.
So like, we really made it a team goal that here are the certain thing, the accountability measures that we have for each other, and we'll all keep each other accountable.
Okay, good. I like that. Oh, checklist queen. I didn't know that about you. That's amazing. I like that. Lorie, you got any thoughts on that?
Wait, I was trying to make an M with my fingers, but I wasn't getting there. You know, it's so hard because being an office manager and then now working for a SaaS company that does those exact things,
What's a SaaS company? You can't just throw that out. Not everybody knows what SaaS is.
Well, I work for a software company that I like to consider like the lead productivity tool in North America. Wait, hashtag Maxassist. It's terrible. I know this is not a good question for me. Let me just say something about checklists.
Okay.
I love checklists, and I was like the sticky note queen. I had sticky notes everywhere reminding me what to do. I would print the like tree of all the people I needed to call that had non-scheduled treatment. I called it my gold mine list. That's very old fashioned, but that's what I called it, right? So then I'd have my hygienist over here barking at me to fill her schedule. God rest her soul. I love her. She's in heaven. That's all good. And then I'd have this list that I needed to call. So I have got a more boisterous personality. And so I didn't mind calling patients, and I liked them all, right? And so that part didn't bother me. But if I was working in a practice today and I knew somebody just was completely resistant to calls, which most younger people are, they don't want to talk on the phone, right? I would have some type of productivity tool that would help me through that. I'll just leave it at that. One does exist, and I know the name of it in case anybody wants to know. Yeah, that so much wisdom in that, Ashley. Thank you so much. It's just an odyssey moment that we've been able to mention our companies all in one swoop. But yeah,
That's pretty good, Lorie. That's pretty
good. Thank you. But look, seriously, I think that having the right people doing those calls are important. You know, I've opened up the conversation many times about AI, about how people want outbound and inbound AI now. And there's all these companies that are working toward that. And it's no wonder when I put out a TikTok video, somebody messages me, oh, great. You want to put us out of business. You want to take our jobs. Everybody thinks that. I'm not going to let that happen. I am not.
But listen, let me just tell you, and whoever's listening to this, and I know you're not listening to it on TikTok because we don't publish on TikTok, but Lorie might clip this and put this on there.
That's right.
You might be the most amazing person to answer the phone, but between the three of us, we have talked to people who have no business being near a phone, and they are answering the phone every day, all day for these poor doctors who think their phones are being answered politely and everything. There's a handful of people out there. I would like to take it away and give them an AI that's just super pleasant. So I'm not trying to replace people, but not everybody has the skills that you have, TikTok person.
But think about that, Teresa. That's such a good point. Ashley, I don't know how you feel about this, but boy, somebody up front better have that skill.
Yeah.
Because that's the same person that's talking to the patients. And I was on a podcast with Kevin Henry, and we were talking about patient handoff, right? And, you know, I really hit, you know how sometimes you're talking about something and you realize something that you didn't even know when you were an office manager? Like, God, I wish I would have known that.
Yeah.
This handoff, the way that you have that personable person up front, it makes memories for patients.
Yes,
it takes away their fear, everything. Those are the people that need to be making the phone calls too, because they have what starts with an E? Empathy. Yeah.
Yes.
They're congenial.
And they can make or break that office.
They can. Well, so there's empathy, and then there's the ability to carry through on the hard stuff like firing, like having those really hard conversations. And I know we're going to start wrapping it up here, but Lorie, one of the questions that came in that I want to hear what you have to say about this. And I thought it was perfect because she's like, I don't want to hear what Teresa and Ashley have to say. I want to hear Lorie talk about what has helped her have more mental fortitude. That's exactly what I need. So when you read that, like, what do you want to say to that, to AT?
Well, she may be referring to my whole year I've had in 2025. And if that's the case, you know, there's always a test in everything, I think. And, you know,
It
the
was a rough
benefit.
year. For those of you that don't know you, let's just say it was a rough year.
Yeah, it's a rough year. And that's, we're designed to have those as humans because they make us better people.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, like, all these things started happening. So, for those of you that don't know, I got let go from my position at ADOM. There was a bunch of us that did. That's not a secret. So, let me just put that on the table. When you've done something I've been in dentistry 35 years, 36 years, and I was at ADOM for 17. And when you think that's going to be the job that you have until you retire. So, for those of you hanging on to your office manager position, you Wilsons out there, you pirates, whatever you want to call yourselves, good on you because you think that that's where you're going to be forever. Mental fortitude comes from a really wise decision of not worrying about so much about your performance, but worrying about protecting your peace. So I think mental fortitude comes from asking yourself the tough questions. Am I happy here? Is this aligned with my personal values? Is the practice moving in such a way, and this can be for your job, for your life, for your home, anything? Is it moving in such a way that I can sleep at night, put my head on the pillow?
Mm-hmm.
So there were like signals. So prior to that all happening, it's really weird. Sometimes I get these weird migraines, these aura migraines where you see things. I don't know if anybody else gets those, but they're kind of popular. So if you're kind of a wild person, so some people get regular headaches. I get the kind where you see all kinds of funny things. I know it sounds,
I'm just
yeah.
going to live
I
vicariously
wish I
through
got
you. Yeah,
those.
I'm
Not
not.
people. It's not people talking to me. I promise. It's not a schizophrenic issue, but God help those people that have that issue.
Mhm.
I started having those right before I got fired
Yeah.
or let go or whatever you want to
Something,
call
you
it.
knew something was coming. Something was up.
So my point to mental fortitude is you have to pay attention to the signs that you're being shown because you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get shown them. Also, as a leader, people are mirrors for you. So if everybody's meeting me with like they're crabby, they're not happy, it really says something about me. I need to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew that there needed to be a shift in my life. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And instead of making the shift, I had to get catapulted. Right. So I told this story to somebody 2 weeks before everything went down for me this year, and I'll tell it really quick. I was reading this book, not to get religious, but I was reading this book by this televangelist named Joyce Meyer. And it was called 7 Things That Steal Your Joy. Only I would look for a book that talks about stealing joy.
Oh
So
no, I'm just thinking what I went through 1 through 6 already, like people. So
there you go. There you go. So I'm reading, and let's call it page 68. It was talking about being at your job. And basically, you're riding along, you're doing your job, you think everything's great. And someone, whoever that someone is for you, is off in the corner yelling, "Get off the horse.
oh
Get off the horse right now. You've had the signs. I'm telling you, get off the horse." And no, you know what we do? We stay on the horse. We go, "I'm really good at riding the horse.
yeah.
I see where I'm going. It's super clear. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be here till I retire. I'm doing all these things. I built all this stuff. I'm happy. I'm riding the horse." And next thing you know, you're bucked off and you're on your, you know what.
Yeah.
And you have to look at that and say 2 things. You have to say, okay, somebody knew something more about this than I did, and I needed to be gone. So, as managers, as leaders, really look at the signs, look at your mirroring of your people. Because, again, back to what I first said about my fortitude conversation, I wrote some notes. Simple habits like journaling before work, setting boundaries, and around email after hours. I had no boundaries. I
No,
was
you didn't.
24/7, eat, breathe, the whole thing. And you know what? Here's the thing, people, that's not life.
No.
Mm-hmm.
That's living for something. That's performance being your power. And really, your power is in the peace that you have and the recognition that something has to shift and change. So, to me, that's what helped me the most. Keep that mental fortitude. And last but not least, understanding that there's a grief cycle through change.
Mm-hmm.
So, it kind of has this really cool diagram. It's like a huge U shape. You start with all these things like anger and processing all the things, and when you get down to like full on depression, it's like then it starts curving upward.
Yeah.
You start understanding that you're in the right place at the right time, that all the struggle meant something and that somebody can learn something from it. So
Yeah.
I'm embracing everything that's happened this year and trying to be as positive about it as possible. Is it easy? No. It is not easy.
But I think it's important. I mean, and you just said like it's going to happen and it's going to help you change. So whether it's you getting your heart broken by your best friend you used to work with and now you're in charge of managing, or as many of our colleagues have gone through, you work for a doctor and then there's a transition, they sell their company, they bring on an associate, and suddenly you're not feeling comfortable when you did before. So there's a lot of that goes on. So part of managing is you're the one who gets hit with all of like the blow darts coming from all these different angles, and how you handle it. You're not going to handle the first barrage very well. No one does. Then you get better. Then you get better. And I know for me, trusting my gut was really important. And I didn't trust my gut at first. I gave a lot of people the benefit of the doubt. I was like, oh, my horse is amazing. It's going to stay upright and, till it crashes into the fence. Then I started realizing, okay, this horse is not great. Like I need to get a different horse. But I mean, just going with the analogy. Yeah. So basically it's okay to have like kind of a bad feeling about things. But if you have a bad feeling and it comes to fruition and then you have it again later, like there's a reason, like it's that whole fight or flight. Your body's training you to recognize. And that's why many managers, the more you interview people, the better you get at it, because you start to realize the patterns of people who are trying to either lie to you, or you can tell somebody has really good work ethic right away, all that kind of stuff. And same thing with patient case presentation, right? Like the more you do it, the more you realize which patients are just yesing you to death. So I think sort of embrace that there's going to be struggle. If you go into it hating it, yeah, it's going to suck. But if you embrace it as an opportunity for something different, I think that's great mental fortitude. You've been through a hell of a year, but you know what? You're in for a whole bunch of great years ahead of you, so you did fantastic things where you
look at the horse you're on now.
Right.
Hey, this is not even a horse. This is like a buggy, a cart, all the things. And one more quick thing about that, Teresa, and Ashley, I bet you'll agree with this because I think it's spot on. If your nervous system says run, do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That is something I've learned this year about your body. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
Our bodies are so smart. And, if you are in the fight or flight or fawn or freeze response, if you don't know what those mean, like please YouTube, Google, because burnout with office managers is so prevalent. And I think so many people we're not listening to our bodies, and our bodies will tell us if something is wrong. And I wish I would have listened to mine a little sooner.
Listen,
but
there's physical manifestations that happen. I think this is so important. Like you had the visions, right? Like I can think my very first employee that really gave me issues, I did develop migraines, like legit had to take medication. When she left, I was like, oh, everything's good. I've developed heartburn. I've had problems sleeping at night from different situations or different patients. That's not normal stuff. And one thing that I hear a lot from managers when they're in an impossible situation and they quote unquote love the office more than the doctor does, like they're trying to get the doctor to do the right thing and it's not working, that affects you. And as soon as I say that in classes, at the end of the class, there's always someone that starts crying, comes up and starts crying because that's them. That crying is your sign. Like I would never say to you, you probably need to get out if you weren't sitting in front of me sobbing. That's a sign. So you got to take care of yourself, because if you burn out and leave the industry, now we're all screwed. Like just leave that office.
Life is too short to be sitting in something that you're not meant to be in. And even if it's a struggle, changing either offices, career paths, or whatever, you grow in the struggle. And at least for myself, looking back, all the times I've grown the most is when I am kicked off that horse and I am struggling so much. I can reflect back and be like, my goodness, I needed that struggle because now I'm where I'm at because of this struggle. And so I never look back and regret going through it. Man, I wish I went through some of them a little quicker. But I never look back and regret it. So I would say, if you're very comfortable all the time and you've never struggled, first of all, it's probably going to come and it's okay.
Yeah.
But also, like, I always think it's good to shake things up. And so maybe just sit back and just reflect, like, hey, life has been good. Like, maybe not shake it up too much and leave if you're in a great situation, but what else can I do maybe outside of that? Just because I think keeping us a little bit uncomfortable helps us as people grow. But then if you're too far on the pendulum where your body is yelling at you or you're crying, breaking down, it is not worth your peace. Protect your peace, like Lorie said. Life is too short.
That's a perfect phrase. I love that you said it. and Lorie, and you're reiterating it, Ashley. So real quick, and then we're done. Newer office manager, how would you direct them to learn more about being a manager? Is there something you think they should focus on? Change management, marketing, human resources, whatever. Just pick one and tell them how to get better at it. While you guys are thinking, I'll just say, because one of them came up was compliance. And to me, anything that gets your office shut down, you need to look at. So I would make sure you investigate HIPAA, infection control, and know your insurance contracts, and realize that you probably aren't going to be able to do all those because those are very specialized tasks. So don't be afraid to outsource and ask somebody to help you with that. That's what I would do.
I think for me, I'm a proponent of community. Like Ash and I were just talking about it. We're part of Dental Entrepreneur Woman. And I knew when I went through my year, yep, Teresa, you too. When I went through my year, I needed a community. And I think that's a big deal. I would really pay attention to some of the groups that you're in, make sure that they're being run by really good people and that the advice you're getting isn't like keyboard warrior advice. Yeah. If somebody said it over here, it doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. Make sure you check on advice. And, as you go on about your journey, I think we said it the best here is pay attention to your empathy bone, your own body, and how your team is reflecting back to you. And if you find that there's an area, like a lot of people asked about micromanaging and those kind of things, if you feel like you fall into those camps where you're starting to get some of those behaviors, read a book. Take a webinar, do the things. I mean, you got a couple experts right here on this panel that can help you with just about anything. Follow the people that are giving the good advice. And that's really hard nowadays to decipher, but you'll kind of know it in your gut. I agree with you, Teresa. Follow that gut. You'll know when advice is good. And there's plenty of it out there now, not like when I first started and there was no help. I was the original girl on the island. Yeah. I think now we have resources. Pay attention to what you resonate with. When you watch somebody and you go, oh my gosh, they're talking about me, right there.
I like that. Ashley?
Well, number one, know your practice management software. Like that to me is be the person that knows the most about your practice management software. And thankfully, a lot of that can be done with Google and YouTube and even ChatGPT. So have that be your helper. And then shameless plug, Dental Revenue, your membership, Teresa.
Dental Revenue Network, thank you.
Yes, Dental Revenue Network. Especially if you're in dental billing or deal with insurance, you need to be a part of that. You have to follow Lorie on TikTok now. Yeah. Because that is where we're going to get our fun videos. But then I think just staying up to date with like webinars and, podcasts and finding people you trust, like you guys had mentioned, and paying attention to what's new because dentistry is still always changing. It's not something that and then you got it and you're done. Like we're still learning all the time. So finding the people you trust and then listening to those people, especially for any updates that come across in our industry.
So look at the three of us. We have 3 different management styles, but with the same ethics and belief foundation. So there's no one way to be a manager. I'm hoping that you all get that. There's no one way to be a manager. You can be like if one of us like you really resonated with, that's cool. That doesn't mean the other ones are not good. It just means you found your person and you might evolve too. I was trying to be Lorie for a long time. I really was like the Lorie type of manager, very empathetic and all that. And I tried to be Ashley in the beginning. That was just a mess. So I just ended up being me and that's okay. You'll figure it out. But yeah. I hope this has been so helpful for everyone. Mm-hmm.
It's been good. And just for those listening, remember, you're probably doing a lot better than you think.
Oh, yeah.
Just the fact that you're listening to something like this, you care. And that's half the battle.
That's what they say about parenting, right? If you care about being a good parent, then you're probably a good parent. So if you care about being a good office manager, chances are you're already halfway there.
Absolutely. I love it. Are you a dental biller feeling overwhelmed and isolated? I get it. The world of revenue cycle management is complex and ever-changing. That's why I created Dental Revenue Network. Our membership community was created to help you become a better revenue cycle manager and small business operator. Say goodbye to feeling alone and hello to a supportive community of dental billing professionals. Here's what you'll get: monthly billing-focused meetings with peers and experts, business building sessions to elevate your career, resource libraries tailored for billers and billing company owners, introductions to cutting-edge RCM technologies and companies, and a vibrant community for networking and support. Ready to transform your dental billing experience? Visit dentalrevenuenetwork.com today. Don't wait. Join us now and navigate the business of RCM with confidence. Well, so we kind of did like this was a follow-up, but if you want to listen to the original where we spent a whole hour going over different topics and we answered some questions ad hoc too, the link will be in the show notes. This won't be the last time you'll see these ladies on my podcast because always a good response to all of you when you are on. So I want to thank you guys for sharing your wisdom with Nobody Told Me That. I appreciate it, ladies. And all of your information will be in the show notes too, so you can connect with them. If they were your person, you can connect directly with them. And dear listeners, I just want to say thank you for always spending your time with me.
If you learned something new today, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep learning with us.
We're all super busy, so thank you for making time for me today. The show notes will have any links that we referenced in the episode. You can also find links for my book, events, and my online insurance course, Dental Insurance Design and Management. I speak often around the country on management and insurance issues. Come hang out with me in one of my classes. I promise you'll laugh and learn.